comes to Antifa, I have been urging since the first Trump administration, designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. One of the things that the president did right at the outset of this presidency is he designated drug cartels like Tren de Aragua and MS-13 as international terrorist organizations. What that does is it authorizes a whole host of tools to go after and to take out those drug cartels. We're seeing that down in Venezuela, where the military has been launching strikes and taking out narco-terrorists who are bringing deadly drugs into America and are threatening the lives and taking the lives of, in 2023, more than 100,000 Americans died of drug overdoses. And so when you designate a group as a terrorist, it gives you enormous tools to fight them. Antifa has supported, has funded violent riots across this country for years. They're a radical leftist anarchist group. They are behind college riots, the anti-Semitic riots, the anti-Israel riots. They're behind many of the open border riots in LA and other major cities. And indeed, this psychotic killer who murdered Charlie Kirk less than 2 weeks ago, he was an angry leftist who hated Charlie Kirk. He was living with his boyfriend, a transgender furry who was a man transitioning to be a woman. And this murderer wrote on the shell casing Antifa propaganda and also transgender propaganda. And so the danger of extreme ideology fueling violence is very real. And so I was very glad that the president and the administration said they're going to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. As I said, I've been calling for that for over 5 years, making the case, and they just this week agreed with my request. What that will do is let us use serious law enforcement tools to go after the funding. You know, you may have seen in this past week, Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I asked him about the Charlie Kirk investigation and thanked the FBI and federal law enforcement for doing such a good job for catching him in less than a day and a half, catching the murderer. But I urge them to, number one, make sure they track down anyone else who may be involved, who may be an accessory before the fact or after the fact, everyone who had prior knowledge. We know there were chat rooms and Reddit discussions and Twitch discussions with other transgender and potentially other Antifa activists. And so what I urge the FBI is follow the money, go after the money. And indeed, I have legislation that is called the Stop Funders Act. The Stop Funders Act would amend the RICO law to add rioting to the list of predicate offenses for RICO. Now, RICO is the racketeering law. It is a very potent law that we use to go after organized crime, go after the mafia, and you can go after the entire organization. And so adding rioting would let us go after those who are funding anti-Israel and anti-Semitic protests on campus, who are funding open border riots, who are funding the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots all across the country.
Fake news media is responsible for this, too.
We should use the tools we have to go after not just those committing violence, but those who are funding and fueling the violence. I know I wasn't the only person who noticed that at the anti-Semitic riots on college campuses, that many of the tents, they all matched. There was real money, whether it was money coming from foreign nations like Qatar or Iran, or money coming from George Soros and other left-wing billionaires who also fund the Democrat Party. Either way, if you are funding acts of violence, that is and should be a criminal offense, and you should be prosecuted. And I'm hopeful DOJ and the FBI will do exactly that.
All right, on.